Good day everyone, I am Hani Marie Aiboro and today I will be discussing a very important topic which is scaling. So this topic is essential because drafting is not just about drawing lines, it is about representing real objects accurately on paper since real objects can be extremely large like buildings or very small like the machine parts. So we need scaling to make these objects fit on a drawing paper or drawing sheet while keeping the correct proportions. Now, what is scaling? So to understand scaling, everyone, we first need to understand the word proportion. So proportion means it is the size or distance of something in comparison to another. For example, if a real table is 100 centimeter long and in a drawing it's shown as 10 centimeter long, then the drawing is a smaller proportion of the actual object. So scaling, it is the process of reducing or enlarging. So scaling is the process of reducing or enlarging a drawing while keeping its correct proportions. That means no matter how small or big or large the drawing becomes, the relationships between each part of the object remain accurate. We use scaling also because we cannot draw buildings or rooms in true size. Small parts of machines need to be enlarged to show details. We need drawings to fit neatly on a sheet of paper. And another reason we use scaling is so that we can accurate scaled drawings to help engineers, builders, and carpenters produce real objects correctly. So what is the proportion scale? So a proportion scale, everyone, it is a special measuring tool used in drafting. The marks on the proportion scale represent a smaller or larger version of the real measurement. For example, if the scale says 1 is to 50, it means 1 unit in the drawing equals 50 units in real life. Another, if the scale says 2 is to 1, it means the drawing is twice the size of the real object. So proportion scale help us draw objects accurately even if we are reducing or enlarging them. Now, let's move on to the scale. So in drafting, the tool we use is simply called the scale. So it is also known as the metric scale or triangular scale. So the tool usually has several edges and each edge contains different proportion scales. So we have the 1 is to 100, 1 is to 125, 1 is to 75, 1 is to 20, 1 is to 25, and 1 is to 50. So every edge has its own ratio. For example, no, just like what I have mentioned earlier, we have the 1 is to 100, 1 is to 50, and so on. So with that, that allows the drafter to choose the right scale depending on how big the actual object is and how big the drawing sheet is. So for example, 1 is to 100 is commonly used sa mga floor plans. 1 is to 100 or 1 is to 50. And also for the furniture, they usually use 1 is to 20 or 1 is to 10. So for machine parts that are small, use enlargement scales like 5 is to 1 or 10 is to 1. So in 5 is to 1 for the machine parts, so 5 units in the drawing means 1 unit in real life. So with that, it shows the every detail of the machine parts. All right. Now, why the scale tool is important. So one of the main reasons we use scale is to reduce or enlarge drawings properly. So let's think of a simple example. If you want to draw the front of a school building on an A4 paper, drawing it in an actual size is impossible. So the building may be 20 meters long. So with a scale, we can think that 20 meters into something like 20 centimeter in drawing, but still keep everything proportional. So the same is true for tiny objects. So for example, a screw. So a screw that is only 1 centimeter long may need to be drawn at 5 centimeter on paper to show detail, and using an enlargement scale makes this possible. Alright. Let's move on to the functions of a scale. So there are two major functions of a scale tool. The first one is for accurate measurement. So the scale allows us to measure distances on a drawing precisely. This is important because even small measurement mistakes can cause big problems in real-life construction or manufacturing. So for example, if a wall is drawn 1 centimeter off, that could become 50 centimeter off in real life using the scale 1:50. So that is why accuracy is critical. The second example, or the second major functions of scale, we have the producing designs to specific sizes. So the scale allows us to create drawings that follow exact proportions. This means that if the drawing is 1:50, every measurement must follow that ratio. And if the scale says 1:100, everything must be reduced by the same ratio. So the consistency makes drawings understandable to everyone, and to the carpenters, engineers, machinists, electricians, and builders. Now let's look at these examples for you to be able to understand. Now, so let's look at the examples of actual scale ratios that we commonly see on a triangular scale ruler. So in drafting everyone, the numbers like 1:20, 1:25, and 1:50 tell us how much the drawing is reduced compared to the real objects. So for example, if 1:20 means 1 unit in the drawing is equal to 20 units in real life. So if I draw a line that measures 1 centimeter, it represents 20 centimeter in real world. So this scale is often used for furniture drawings, room layouts, or medium-sized objects where we want more detail and a slightly larger drawing. Another is the 1:25. Alright, so a scale of 1:25 means 1 unit in the drawing is equals to 25 units in real life. So this is very close to 1:20, but it reduces the drawing a bit more. Alright, so it is commonly used in what? In architectural drawings, especially for rooms, small buildings, and floor plans where the drawing must fit on paper but still show details clearly. So another is 1:50, no? So kung unsa akong gitabigay na sa 1:20, 1:25, that works the same in 1:50, 1:100, and so on. So in 1:50, 1 unit in the drawing is equals to 50 units in real life. So as you notice, this is a bigger reduction. It makes the drawing smaller compared to the real objects. So we usually use 1:50 for house floor plans, building layouts, and any object that is too large to draw at 1:20 or 1:25. So as you can see on the image I have provided on the screen, so as you have noticed, if mas layo ang units sa 1, is mas gamay ang yellow lines. So these scales are important, everyone, because these examples show how the scale tool help us control how big or small our drawings will appear. Okay. So by choosing the proper scale, everyone, the drafter can make sure the drawing fits on paper, stays accurate, keep the correct proportion, and is easy to read and understand. Okay, so to help you visualize this, I'll give you another example, no? So if a wall is 400 centimeter long in real life, so if you use the scale 1:20, so at 1:20, you drew it as 20 centimeters. So 20 times 20 equals 400. So also at 1:25 scale, you drew it as 16 centimeters. So why 16 centimeter? Because you multiply it. So 16, since 1:25 is the scale we used, so we multiply it to 16 to 25. So 16 times 25 is 400 centimeter long in real life. Another, if we use the scale 1:50, you draw it as 8 centimeter. So why 8 centimeter? Because if you multiply it to 50, so that equals to the 400 centimeter in real life. That is why choosing the right scale is very important. And of course, sa mga metrosan di ay, mao na sila ang mga gigamit nga mga actual scale, which is the 1:1. Sa mga rulers, triangular scales, sa kuan is mao na sila ang mga nagamit og mga scale. So, to summarize my report, scaling is the process of reducing or enlarging drawings while keeping correct proportions. The scale tool or metric scale helps us measure accurately and produce drawings in the right size. So, scaling is important because it allows us to represent real objects, big or small, on paper without losing accuracy. So, it is one of the most essential skills in mechanical drafting because everything we create must be clear, precise, and true to real-life measurements. So that ends my report, and I hope you now understand the importance of scaling in drafting. Thank you and have a good day.